There is a place in Surrey that does not appear on any tourist map. It does not need to. The people at once find it anyway, on a family holiday, pressed against a palace railing at age 9, watching a man in a bearskin stand so still he seemed carved from something older than the building behind him, or in a recruitment office on a Tuesday afternoon with nowhere else to be, or in a moment of pure, irrational decision that arrives the way most life-altering decisions do, quiet, with no explanation and slightly too late to take back. Purbright Depot sits in the Surrey Hills like an argument. The grass is regulation short. The parade square is regulation flat. The buildings are the color of institutional certainty, not gray, not beige, something between the two that communicates without speaking, that individual preference stopped mattering at the gate. This is where the Coldstream Guards make guardsmen. Not soldiers, guardsmen. The distinction is not semantic. The British Army has soldiers by the thousands, men and women who can fight, maneuver, dig in, hold ground. The Guards do all of that. But they do something else first, and they do it in public, in front of cameras and foreign dignitaries and 9-year-olds pressed against palace railings, and they do it without a single visible scene. The bearskin weighs 1.5 kilograms. In summer on a parade square in full tunic, it is a slow form of weather. The men who wear it do not flinch, not because they feel nothing, because they have spent 28 weeks learning to feel everything and show none of it. And that skill, that particular, brutal, completely unmarketable skill, is what separates a guardsman from every other soldier in the British Army. Their motto is second to none. They mean it the way people only mean things when they've paid for the right to say them. They arrive on a Monday. 41 of them in civilian clothes, carrying duffel bags with varying degrees of military-adjacent seriousness. Some have ironed their shirts, some have not. One is wearing a tracksuit with a logo on it that the color sergeant will later describe, without raising his voice, as an act of optimism. They are not soldiers yet. They are not anything yet. The Army does not ease you in. There is no orientation week, no icebreaker exercises, no moment where someone says welcome and means it warmly. The institution begins the moment the gate closes behind you, and the gate closing behind you is so unremarkable, a man in a uniform pressing a button, a barrier lowered, that most of them miss it as the moment their old life ended. 28 weeks. That is the number. It is written nowhere visible. It does not need to be. It enters through the first briefing, delivered by Color Sergeant Raymond Fletcher, 41 years old, 17 years in the regiment, a man whose face communicates that he has given this briefing enough times to have stopped finding any of it interesting, and whose voice communicates that your finding it interesting is not his concern. You will be trained to the standard of the Queen's Guard, Fletcher says. Not to a standard, to the standard. There is one. You will either reach it or you will not. The ones who do not will go home. The ones who do will stand in front of the monarch of the United Kingdom and represent this regiment and this nation, and they will do it without error, and they will do it without complaint, and they will do it in boots so clean you could perform surgery in the reflection. He pauses. Any questions? 41 men sit in silence. Good, Fletcher says. That's the last time silence will be acceptable from this platoon. The 28 weeks begin. Marcus Webb is 19 years old and from Birmingham, and has wanted to be a soldier since before he knew what soldiers actually did. He is compact, quick, with the kind of physical confidence that reads as competence until the moment it reads as arrogance. And that moment arrives on day 3 when he tells another recruit, loudly enough to be overheard, that parade work is what you do when you can't act real soldier. Color Sergeant Fletcher overhears this. Marcus does not speak again for 4 days unless directly addressed. He has one photograph in his locker. His younger brother may be 7 years old, wearing a toy bearskin from a souvenir shop outside Buckingham Palace. Marcus does not talk about this photograph, but it faces outward, toward the room, every single day of training. Daniel Hartley is 24 from Rotherham and spent the 3 years before enlistment working a night shift at a distribution warehouse outside Sheffield. He is large, not guard large, not yet, but large in the way of a man who has carried heavy things for a long time in a building with no windows. He has never in his life been told what to do by someone younger than him, and the color sergeant is 30, but the corporal running drill is 22. And something about this specific arithmetic takes Daniel approximately 2 weeks to make peace with. His boots defeat him on day 1. Not metaphorically. He sits on his bed at 11 p.m. on the first Monday, holding a tin of polish, staring at a boot that has the shine of a shoe that has never been polished, which is to say no shine at all. And he has followed the instructions and applied the polish and used the cloth, and the boot looks, if anything, worse than when he started. He will not solve the boots for 6 weeks. The boots will never entirely stop being a problem. Owen Marsh is 18, from a village in Shropshire so small it does not appear on Google Maps without the zoom at maximum, and he has been preparing for this specific moment since he was 12 years old when he watched a Coldstream Guards parade on television, and decided, with the absolute certainty that only 12-year-olds and fundamentalists possess, that this was the thing. He has practiced drill in his bedroom. Not once, repeatedly, for 6 years. He arrives at Purbright knowing the regulation pace length. He arrives knowing the bearskin weight. He arrives knowing the motto in Latin. He does not share any of this information. He simply begins, quietly, competently, drawing no attention, performing at a level that the instructors clock within 48 hours and then watch. The way you watch something that might be too good to be real, waiting for the catch. The catch does not come, which becomes its own kind of problem. The drill square is a specific kind of cruelty. Not because it is difficult. It is difficult genuinely, the kind of difficulty that lives in your knees and lower back, and the particular muscle behind your shoulder blade that you did not know existed before someone told you to hold a rifle at a fixed angle for 40 minutes. But because it is difficult in public, every mistake is visible, every mistake is named. The square has no corners to fail in private. Marcus fails publicly. He fails on week 2, the heel strike drill, his right foot landing 2 inches outside the regulation line, and Corporal James Adaney, 22 years old, Barking, East London, a man who has the physical stillness of someone who has been shouted at enough times to have metabolized it into something useful, calls the platoon to halt and walks to Marcus and stands close enough that the correction is, technically, a private communication, and says nothing for 4 seconds. Do it again. Marcus does it again. 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 The platoon stands, waits, 40 bodies absorbing the friction of other people's learning because that, too, is part of it. The understanding that one man's error costs everyone, that the square is not individual, that the bearskin outside Buckingham Palace is worn by a collective before it is worn by a person. Marcus gets it on the 7th attempt. Adaney says nothing, returns to his position. The drill resumes. That is the system. No praise for correction. Correction is the floor, not the ceiling. Praise is for the standard, and the standard is the standard, and you are nowhere near it yet. Meanwhile, in the accommodation block, Daniel is fighting the boots. The boots are a separate war with separate rules, and no witnesses, except the man in the mirror above the sink, and the other recruits who have their own boots to worry about, and are therefore diplomatically blind to anyone else's crisis. The process is called bulling. It involves polish and a cloth and circular motions, and more polish and heat and beeswax, and more circular motions and time, most of all time. And the result, if you do it correctly over many hours across many evenings, is a shine so deep and hard it looks less like leather and more like something that belongs in a display case. Daniel's boots at week 3. look like two objects that have been polished by someone who is very sincere and completely wrong about how polishing works. He watches videos. He asks Owen, who produces a shine that borders on alarming after 30 minutes of apparently casual effort, and who explains the technique with the patience of someone who has practiced explaining it to a version of himself that did not yet know it. Daniel follows the instructions exactly. The boots do not improve. It's the motion, Owen says on week 4, watching Daniel work. I'm doing the circular motion. You're doing a circular motion. There's a difference. Daniel stares at him. It's pressure distribution, Owen says. You're pressing hard on the downstroke and releasing on the upstroke. You need the same pressure throughout. Constant. Like you're not polishing. Like you're just resting your hand on it and the cloth is moving because it has to. Daniel tries it. The boot does not immediately transform. But something in it shifts. Some quality of the surface changes the way a conversation changes when someone finally says the true thing. And Daniel keeps the pressure constant, keeps the motion constant. And by week 5, his boots are passing inspection. And by week 6, they are good. And by week 8, they are the thing that Color Sergeant Fletcher holds up, without nomming the owner, as an example of what right looks like. Daniel says nothing when this happens. But in the accommodation block that evening, there is something different in how he sits. Something that was not there before. A settledness. A weight that is not the weight of exhaustion. He has been told, without being told, that he belongs here. Owen, meanwhile, continues. The instructors watch him the way you watch a building you suspect is structurally unsound. Not with malice, but with the professional awareness that something performing too perfectly is either excellent or about to fail, and the consequences of the latter in their line of work are not theoretical. He is correct in his drill. He is correct in his bearing. His boots are correct. His rifle angle is correct. His responses are correct in length and tone and register. He does not make friends easily. Not because he is cold, because he is so thoroughly prepared that the common currency of early training solidarity, shared suffering, shared ignorance, shared terror of getting it wrong, is not available to him. He cannot bond over not knowing how to bull boots because he arrived knowing how to bull boots. He eats alone 3 nights in a row in week 6. Nobody asks him if he is all right. This is also part of it. The combat exercises begin in week 12. The parade square guardsman and the infantry soldier are not different people. They are the same person at different temperatures. The field strips away the tunic and the bearskin and the regulation paste, and replaces them with mud and darkness, and the specific cognitive pressure of having to make correct decisions when your body is cold, and your sleep debt is measured in nights, and someone is telling you, via radio, that the situation has changed, and the information you had is wrong, and you have approximately 90 seconds to produce a new plan. Marcus is good at this. Not just good, fluid. The quality that read as arrogance on the parade square, the speed, the certainty, the forward lean of a man who does not entertain the possibility of being wrong for long enough to be paralyzed by it, becomes in the field the thing the section moves around. He makes decisions. Some are wrong. He corrects them without drama and makes new ones. The section does not discuss this. They simply follow, which is its own form of language. Daniel is adequate. He is not a natural tactician. He follows orders correctly and executes them physically with the kind of absolute reliability that comes from having spent 3 years moving heavy objects from one location to another in the dark, which is, it turns out, better preparation for infantry field work than it sounds. His section knows he will be where he is supposed to be. This is not nothing. This is, in fact, the thing most sections fall apart without. Owen is correct. He is correct in the field the same way he is correct on the parade square, technically sound, procedurally flawless, somehow slightly apart from the human chaos of the thing. His section respects him. They do not warm to him. He does not appear to need them to. In week 14, during a night exercise, A section commander asks the platoon, after a debrief, which recruit they would want next to them in a contact. Without discussion, without eye contact, without any visible coordination, every hand points at Marcus. Marcus looks at the ground. He does not say anything. But something in him, some quality of the posture, some micro-adjustment in how he holds his shoulders changes and does not change back. 3 days before the passing out parade, Marcus fails his drill assessment. Not barely, not close but not quite. Clean failure, the heel strike still a degree off after 22 weeks of correction. The rifle angle collapsing on the turn, the whole performance carrying the ghost of every shortcut his body has been trying to negotiate since week 1. Corporal Adami marks the sheet, does not raise his voice, hands it to Color Sergeant Fletcher without expression. Fletcher reads it. Reassessment Friday, he says. That's 1 day before parade. Marcus walks off the square. He does not go to the accommodation block. He goes to the far edge of the camp where the grass stops being regulation short and sits on the ground for 11 minutes. Nobody follows him. This is understood, not arranged, not discussed, simply understood as the kind of alone that needs to be alone. What he does in those 11 minutes is not known. What happens after them is, he comes back to the block at 2100 hours, collects his drill boots, goes to the laundry room because it is the only room with enough floor space, and drills. Alone, no music, no audience. The linoleum is not the parade square, but his body does not need the parade square anymore. It needs repetition, and it gets repetition, the same 4 steps, the same turn, the same heel strike, 240 times over 4 hours until the motion stops being a decision and becomes a fact. Daniel finds him at 1:30, stands in the doorway for a moment, does not say anything about what he sees, a grown man drilling in a laundry room in the middle of the night, which is either the most desperate or the most determined thing he has witnessed since arriving, possibly both. Possibly the two things are the same thing and nobody told him. He goes to his room, comes back with his own boots, starts drilling in the corner. No explanation, no discussion, just 2 men in a laundry room at 1 in the morning, drilling, the sound of boot leather on linoleum, the small fluorescent light above the washing machines. Owen appears at 200, takes the 3rd corner. They drill until 300. They sleep for 4 hours. They do not speak about it the following day or ever. Friday arrives. Marcus stands on the square. Adami reads nothing from his face. Fletcher reads nothing from his face. The square is the square. The assessment is the assessment. Marcus drills. The heel strike lands. The rifle angle holds on the turn. Fletcher marks the sheet, hands it to Adami. Adami looks at it for 2 seconds. Pass, he says. Marcus nods once, walks off the square. In the accommodation block, Daniel is on his bed, still in full kit, asleep before he hits the pillow, boots still on. One of them leaving a smear of polish on the gray blanket that will require explaining, which he will never satisfactorily do. The morning of the passing out parade smells like boot polish and cold air, and something underneath both of those things that is not a smell so much as a quality of atmosphere. The way a room feels before something that cannot be undone. They dress in silence. Full tunic, white gloves, bearskin. The tunic is the thing that changes them, not the bearskin, not the rifle, but the tunic, red and exact and utterly without compromise, which communicates to the body wearing it that slouching is no longer structurally available as an option. Marcus puts it on and becomes, in the mirror, someone he has only previously seen from the outside of a railing. Daniel's boots catch the light. He looks at them for a moment longer than necessary. Owen is dressed and ready 11 minutes before anyone else. He does not draw attention to this. He sits on the edge of his bed and looks at the middle distance and does the thing he has been doing since he was 12. which is simply being ready, and which has cost him over 28 weeks, more than anyone in this platoon knows. Color Sergeant Fletcher walks through the block. He does not inspect. He does not speak. He walks the length of the room at a pace that communicates assessment without announcing it, and at the end he stops and turns. "Right," he says. "That is all." They fall in outside. The parade square on passing out day is the same square they have spent 28 weeks failing on. Same dimensions, same surface, same wind coming off the Surrey Hills in the particular direction that gets into the collar of the tunic. But something about the population of it has changed, the families in the stands along the edge, the dress uniforms of the reviewing officers, the color and noise of a thing that has been, for 28 weeks, gray and functional and unwitnessed. Marcus's brother is in the stands. He is wearing the toy bearskin from the souvenir shop. Marcus does not look at him. He knows he is there. He will not look at him until it is over, because looking at him now would cost something he cannot afford to spend before the parade begins. The not looking requires a specific kind of effort that nobody watching from the stands can see, and that costs, quietly, more than the drilling. The reviewing officer takes his position. The platoon stands. 41 men, minus 2 who did not make it this far. 39 men, standing in the Surrey cold in tunics that weigh more than most people's luggage, in boots that collectively represent several hundred hours of work, holding rifles at an angle that has been corrected, collectively, approximately 3,000 times over 28 weeks. Fletcher calls the command. They move. The heel strike is uniform. The pace is 116 to the minute. The rifle angles hold. The turn comes and the line holds the turn, which is the thing turns rarely do without weeks of work on the specific geometry of it. Daniel is where he is supposed to be, which is a small and complete thing. Owen is technically flawless, which is the thing he has always been, and which means something different today than it did in week 1, because today he earned the right to be technically flawless among men who are also technically flawless, and that changes what it means. Marcus is not perfect. He is something better than perfect. He is right in the way that has cost him specifically. The heel strike landing in the exact spot it failed to land for 22 weeks. The rifle angle holding through the turn as it did not hold in the assessment. The whole performance carrying the specific weight of having been failed and corrected and practiced in a laundry room at 1 in the morning by a man who did not have to do that and chose to anyway. The reviewing officer watches. He sees a platoon. He does not see the laundry room. He does not see the boot polish wars of weeks 3 through 8. He does not see the photograph in the locker, the toy bearskin in the stands, the 11 minutes alone on the grass at the edge of camp. He sees the product of the process, which is what the product of the process is designed to look like: seamless, institutional, without visible seam. This is the point. This is the whole point. A mother in the stands puts her hand over her mouth. The awards are distributed quietly, the way the regiment distributes everything that matters. Best recruit, Owen Marsh. His name is called. He steps forward, receives the silverware from the reviewing officer's hands with a grip that is regulation, not tight, not loose, the regulation grip, and steps back. He does not smile, not because he is not feeling anything, because he has spent 28 weeks learning to feel everything and show the relevant portion of it, and the relevant portion in this moment, in this institution, is composure. He has been preparing for this since he was 12. It is exactly what he expected. It is also somehow nothing like what he expected. The silverware is lighter than he imagined. The square is bigger from inside the tunic than it looked from outside the railing. The thing about finally arriving at the place you have been moving toward for 6 years is that it does not feel like arrival so much as a door opening into a corridor you had not previously been able to see. You will think about this later. Not now. Best navigation, Daniel Hartley. He hears his name and and does not move for a full beat, which is one beat too many and will cost him nothing because there are no instructors grading this moment, and the reviewing officer is already extending the award, and Daniel crosses the space between himself and the award with the gait of a man who has spent 24 years being told his particular category of competence does not count, and collects the silverware. And the silverware is solid in his hands, the way the correct thing always is. He calls his mother that evening. She asks how it went. "All right," he says. She asks if he passed. "Yeah," he says. She asks if he's proud of himself. He looks at the silverware on the bed beside him, looks at the boots, which are, after 28 weeks, genuinely exceptional, a shine so deep and consistent that the morning light moves across them like water. "Yeah," he says, "I suppose." He means it the way people only mean things when the words have cost them something to get to. Marcus receives no award. He is standing in the formation when the ceremony ends, holding his rifle at the regulation angle, in the correct position, in boots that are correct and a tunic that is correct and a bearskin that is correct, and Color Sergeant Fletcher walks the line, and when he reaches Marcus, he pauses for a duration that is technically indistinguishable from how long he pauses at anyone else. "Webb," he says. "Color Sergeant." "The laundry room." Marcus says nothing. "I know about the laundry room," Fletcher says, not as a reprimand, not as a commendation, as information being transferred from one person to another. A pause. "Guardsman," Fletcher says, not Marcus. Guardsman, the rank landing like a door closing on everything that came before it. He moves on down the line. Marcus stands. Somewhere in the stands, his brother is still wearing the toy bearskin, which is tilted at an angle that violates every regulation the real one demands, and Marcus allows himself, for the first and only time today, to look. The kid waves. Marcus does not wave back, but something around his eyes does something, briefly and without permission, and then it is gone, and he is facing forward again, facing the square, facing the thing he is now part of, which does not care about brothers in toy bearskins or laundry rooms at 1 in the morning or 11 minutes alone at the edge of camp, or the particular arithmetic of a 22-year-old corporal telling a 24-year-old warehouse worker that he is doing the circular motion wrong. It does not care about any of it. It has absorbed all of it. The commanding officer reaches the front. 4 words. "To your battalions, fall out." They fall out. Marcus finds his brother in the crowd and the kid launches himself, and Marcus catches him, and the bearskin falls off and lands on the parade square, which is a minor violation of approximately 6 different regulations. And Marcus picks it up and puts it back on the kid's head and does not look at the instructors who are watching this, and does not look at anything except his brother's face. And the regiment continues around him, absorbing what has happened, the way it always does, the way it has done for 350 years, adding these men to the long ledger of men it has made and used and changed, and sent out into the world wearing its name. Second to none. They mean it. They have always meant it. And now, wet-tied in the Surrey cold, silverware in hand, boots that took 8 weeks to learn, a laundry room that nobody asked about and nobody forgot, so do these men. So do they.